people's reactions, mostly they were a lot less negative than I expected. Most people, Colorado's kind of laid back. I'd say most people don't care what other people do as long as it doesn't affect them personally, you know. And so there were a few people that had issues, sometimes just a random stranger, sometimes, you know, a friend or two, but most people could care less. They're like, oh, whatever, you know. And so that was kind of a relief. And so when but I also, you know, noticed some good aspects about wearing it that kind of helped explain to me, you know, so that it made more sense to me once I started to put it on. You know, just the way people would interact with me was a little bit different, and I guess in some sense more respectful. And I hadn't noticed the disrespect, I guess, you know, until you experience something else. And so then it made sense to me, and I felt like I got it. And so then I felt a lot more comfortable with it. Yeah, I felt like I lost everybody in a sense. Because, yeah, I had friends, but transitioning to college, you know, the friends that I had that were good friends, I wasn't seeing them on a daily basis anymore. And I was still trying to figure out what a Muslim identity was, you know, what it meant to be Muslim. And so I really felt separate from the people that were my friends, you know, through work or through school or different things like that. And I still felt very separate from the Muslim community because, you know, it's really hard to figure out how you fit in there as a convert. And so, yeah, it was a lonely time, I guess, trying to figure out where you fit in with everybody because you feel like you lost everybody else and there's nobody to replace it. So I was pretty confident that it was the right direction. I think part of the loneliness came from, too, is that some of the Muslims that I met were Shia at the time, and I was, you know, as soon as I converted, I was starting to learn about the difference between the Shia and the Sunni, and most of the people at that school were Sunni. Okay. And some of them were quite Salafi, Wahhabi type. Like I tried to join the Muslim Student Association and was basically told that I couldn't. Because I might be Shia.
Really?
Yeah. So
even though you won.
They basically said, "Are you?" Because they knew that I hung around some Shias a little bit, and so, and because they're like, if you are, you can't join, you know. And basically, they're saying, "We know you're Shia, but we're not going to come out and say you're Shia," or something like that. I didn't know that I was Shia at that point, probably, but so yeah, there was no like association to be a part of, and a lot of the Shias were students who were leaving, so they were, you know, going back overseas. Well, the internet was pretty new at that time, but there was a little bit. There was alislam.org, I think, was probably a new website at the time, and probably about the only one. But someone directed me to that, and so I read everything that I could find there. And there was an internet forum called Alobate Discussion Group that I don't know if it still exists, but I would ask a lot of questions on there. And I asked a lot of questions about Sunni versus Shia and just trying to figure out different things. And I would get pretty good answers back. And someone that was on that group actually invited me to go visit them in another state. Actually, it was in Canada, up in Vancouver, to meet the Muslim community. That was the first time I'd ever been in a masjid, a Shia center, and that helped a lot because then I made a few connections. Since I knew that there was a difference in the beginning because I knew some Shias, I knew I needed to look at it. I was really tired though.
Tired?
Just from changing my religion and all that study, the whole process of kind of turning everything over, and it's like, oh, and now there's another thing, you know. But what I didn't want to just, since I was closer to the Shias, I didn't want to just take what they had because I was closer to them. I didn't want to, you know, make that kind of mistake. So I tried to do a lot of study, and what really did it for me, I think, was reading about Ghadir Qum. And you know, it just made a lot of sense to me that, you know, one of the big issues that I had with the Bible was that it had been corrupted, and if you're going to have a scripture from God, there needs to be some kind of protection from that corruption. And so I was able to understand how the Quran could be preserved to today through the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And when you looked at the examples of their lives and how they lived, you could see that they were, you know, impeccable people to follow. Whereas if you looked at Sunni leaders, there were so many things that would come up that why would I follow this person, you know? Exactly. I realized, you know, that to me it was like there's no point in being Muslim if you're going to be a Sunni, because it's like you're missing the point. You know, you came all this way to stop short, is what it seemed to me like. You know, I want the real thing. I want to go all the way. So, and it seemed like with Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam that it was there. Well, actually, I got married to someone that I had met that was in the Shia community, and so basically, my community was like whoever he hung around with. He was from UAE, and so he hung around other Shias from the Gulf states mainly, and so it was a really small group. But then my husband got transferred to school in a different state. I guess his country said that he was on a scholarship, and they said that people were going to school in this particular, certain schools weren't passing, and so they sent him to a different college. And the intention was that we would move in together, you know, after we finished school. And he basically what ended up happening is when he finished school, he went home and he didn't come back. And so I think I'd been kind of building my community around whoever he was going to be around, and then there was nobody there. So I learned, you know, eventually I met some Shia in Denver. They had a small masjid, but the masjid had so many problems that they were always fighting with each other. And the ladies' facilities were really, really bad. Like you'd go in there and you couldn't see what was going on, you couldn't hear what was going on, and it wasn't in English anyway, and the ladies didn't talk to me. They would just talk about me in Arabic. And you know, they didn't greet me when I came in, and I just felt really uncomfortable, so I didn't want to go back. But eventually I found a different group that were mainly Pakistanis, and they had some things in English. And but really, that Denver's still kind of far away from where I live, so I don't go up there very much. What really became my community, I would say, was the people that invited me to Canada eventually paid for me to go for Hajj.
Okay.
And when I went on Hajj, it kind of opened a whole bunch of doors for me. I met a lot of people that I was able to keep in touch with over the internet, and you know, like the internet's how I met, you know, Revert Muslim Association and all of those kind of things. So I still have kind of more of an internet community than an on-ground community, I guess I'd say. But I guess I'd say I could be a lot more involved if I felt like driving up to Denver. You know, I could be doing more up there. But sometimes I just feel like I get so little out of it, and I don't like driving at night. You know, that I just choose to stay home. And so sometimes I feel guilty about that I don't do more to try to be involved in the local communities. But, you know, there were the good people that I met online. It's somehow been enough for me, you know, I mean, yeah, you know, I've been able to do things. I write for Islamic Insights magazine sometimes and do different things like that I feel like I contribute somehow, you know, and I'm involved somehow, I'm learning somehow. And it's been a long time now, and I'm kind of old enough that it's become comfortable, I guess you'd say. Once I finished college, I went home for a little while before I got a job and got my own place. And that was kind of a time of relationship rebuilding, I guess, because we were forced to be in close quarters again. And since then, you know, I think they got to a point of, I guess, what I call acceptance. You know, it's maybe not what they really like, or maybe not what they would pick, but like one day my cousin asked my mother something about, the way I dress or whatever, and she said, I've come to accept it. And it was a long journey to get there, but I think that we're closer than we ever were before. We were able to, they were able to see that I was still their daughter and I still love them and I still care for them and they still care for me, and so, I'm really happy with that. We only live like a mile apart from each other, so I see them like every week, and so that's one of the reasons why I stay in Colorado Springs, actually, is because, they're getting older now and you feel like somebody needs to be there for them. So
Sure.
I don't know, I feel like for them I want to stay there right now. I work as a public school teacher, and in some small way I feel like I can make a difference there too for Muslims. Students in an area where there's basically no Muslims get to meet someone who's Muslim, and you can make a difference that way. And on the offhand we ever have a Muslim student that comes through, most of them aren't practicing and they don't wear hijab or whatever, but there's something there for them if they want it. But sometimes I do think about, if things were different, where would I want to be? Where would be, some place with a nice big community and lots of people and things like that. Lectures like these, that we had here at the conferences and things like that would be nice. It's funny, but the girls almost never ask. It's always the boys.
Really?
Yeah. The boys actually seem to kind of like it, and maybe they're more brave or more curious or something, but they're the ones who usually will ask the questions. And some of them are really funny questions, like, do you wear that in the shower? But they're totally sincere. They're just curious. And, then they just want to know, well, what are you? Are you Muslim or whatever? Because they don't know a lot about Islam. And, but, they don't ask a lot of questions, maybe because they're, it's the teacher, what do you, but some of them do. And it's kind of fun to see what they'll ask. So.